Hello, it's IELTS-up Writing Tutorial, and today I'm going to explain you how to describe pie charts in IELTS Writing Test 1. So, in this lesson, you will see an example of a pie chart question, learn a Band 9 answer structure, write model answer step by step together, and learn some useful vocabulary. So, this is IELTS Writing Test 1 sample. You have a pie chart to describe, and you have a question card with some important information about your chart. The first thing you need to do is to read the question card. Let's do it together. The two charts below show the percentages of industry sector's contribution to the economy of Turkey in 2000 and 2016. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, now let's look at the pie chart. As you know, pie chart is a circular graph divided into slices. Well, it really looks like a pie, so that's where its name came from. Now let's return to our chart. What we can see, the name of our chart is Contribution to the Economy of Turkey by Sector. We have two pie charts. The first one corresponds to the year 2000, and the second one corresponds to the year 2016. Each of these two pie charts shows many economic sectors, namely agriculture, construction, manufacturing, trade, utilities and transportation, healthcare and education, finance, business and other services, leisure and hospitality, government. So, these are our pie charts. And when you get familiar with your pie charts, you can start writing the answer. It is a very good idea to follow the Band 9 answer structure while writing your answer. This way, your writing will be more coherent and clear for the examiner. So, let's study the Band 9 answer structure together. Your first paragraph is an introduction. In this paragraph, you should introduce your chart to the readers in 1 or 2 sentences. Next, you should write an overview paragraph. In this paragraph, you should list general trends of your chart. Do not write many specific numbers or details in this part. Remember, overview should contain only general information. Then, you should describe specific features of your chart in 2 or 3 separate paragraphs. You should not write a conclusion in task 1 because you are not asked to give your personal opinion, and you have already summarized the information in the general overview. Excellent! Now you know the answering strategy, so let's start writing our Band 9 answer. As you remember, our first paragraph is an introduction. The introduction is 1 or 2 sentences where you simply paraphrase the information from your question. You should mention 2 things in your introduction: what your chart shows and for what period of time. You cannot just copy this text from your question card. Such writing will receive a low score, so don't do that. Instead of writing, the 2 pie charts below shows the percentages of industry sector's contribution to the economy of Turkey in 2000 and 2016. We should write a paraphrased version of this sentence by using synonyms. And here is how I wrote it. The 2 pie charts illustrate how different industry sectors contributed to the economy of Turkey percentage-wise in the years 2000 and 2016. You can notice that I did not change the name of the chart, and you also should never paraphrase the name of your chart. If you get a map, write map. If you get a table, write table. And if you get a graph, write graph. So I also kept the same expression, the two pie charts. After that comes the word below. This word is used only for guidance purposes, and since the examiner won't see a chart below your writing, you can just skip it. Next we have the verb show. And verbs can always be replaced with a synonym. I decided to replace the word show with illustrate. But this is not the only option. We could also use such synonyms as represent, describe, or provide information about. Then comes a long phrase, the percentages of industry sector's contribution to the economy of Turkey. I decided to paraphrase it by using the word how. And that's what I've got. How different industry sectors contributed to the economy of Turkey percentage-wise. The word percentage-wise means in terms of percentages. You can see that I used a very nice technique. If your expression is too long and too difficult to paraphrase, you can just use the word how. So, if you want to paraphrase with the word how, then you have to find the action noun. In our case, it is contribution. And change it to a verb. In our case, contributed. And make a new sentence. Finally, we have the time period in 2000 and 2016. And I have paraphrased it in such way. In the years 2000 and 2016. So I just made this phrase a little bit bigger by adding the years. And you can also paraphrase the time period expression in such way. For example, in 2015 will become in the year 2015. In 2015, 2016 and 2017 will become in the years 2015, 2016 and 2017. Okay, that's all with our introduction. It is clear and specific, so when the examiner starts reading this essay, he will easily understand what our pie chart is all about. When we have finished the introduction, we have to move on to the general overview paragraph. Remember, to achieve a band 6 or more for task 1, you must provide the overview. In the overview paragraph, you should briefly describe major features of your pie charts. Ideally, you should describe from 2 to 4 key features. Do not write too many numbers, percentages, or dates in the overview. You have to keep only general information in this paragraph. So, let's look at our pie charts and identify some key features. Well, there are many ways to find the key features of our charts. First of all, we could search for the biggest and smallest slices of each pie chart. And secondly, we can find which slices became bigger and smaller or did not change. Each of these options is fine, but do not write both of them, because you have to keep your overview short. So I've decided to focus on the first option. Now let's look at each pie chart and find the key features. Our first pie chart depicts year 2000. What is the largest slice of this pie? Well, clearly it's agriculture. This means that agriculture was the biggest part of Turkey's economy in the year 2000. And what is the smallest slice? It is construction, only 3%. Any other segment of our pie chart is bigger than the construction. This means that our construction segment was the smallest part of Turkey's economy in 2000. And our second pie chart shows year 2016. We can see that the largest part of this pie is healthcare and education, and the smallest part is finance, business and other services. Now let's make an overview with these key features. To avoid repeating myself, I will use synonyms. The phrase "was the smallest segment" can be replaced with "contributed the least to the economy", "made the lowest contribution", "made up the smallest part of the chart", and "was the least significant part of the economy". And the same for the largest slice. "Was the largest segment" can be replaced with "contributed the most to the economy", "made the highest contribution", "made up the biggest part of the chart", "was the most significant part of the economy". If we take away the word economy, you can notice that these phrases are universal phrases to describe slices of any IELTS pie chart. Keep in mind this useful vocabulary. So, here is our overview. Overall, at the beginning of the period, construction contributed the least to the economy of Turkey, while agriculture was the most significant economic sector. In comparison, at the end of the period, healthcare and education became the largest economic segment, and the lowest contribution was made by finance, business and other services. You can see that the first word I use is the word overall. Always start the overview paragraph with the word overall. This word serves as an indicator, which tells the examiner that you start writing the overview paragraph. At the beginning of the period is just an equivalent way of saying in the year 2000. Then we use our key features for the year 2000. I write that construction was the smallest economic segment, and agriculture was the largest economic segment. After that, I start a new sentence to describe the key features of the year 2016. You can see that I used a very nice linking structure, in comparison, to show that I'm comparing both charts. And then again, I just list the largest economic segment and the smallest economic segment in that year. And that's all with the general overview paragraph. Now we have to provide specific details of our pie chart. In this part, you should write specific numbers and years to describe changes. Never write all the specific details in one large paragraph. This would be a very bad organization. Remember that you should group the specific features of your pie chart into separate paragraphs. This way, your writing will be coherent and you will get a high score. You can organize your specific details in many ways. The most important thing is that your organization is logical. Ideally, you should aim at 2 or 3 paragraphs with specific features. I decided to group the specific features by decreasing and increasing trend. This means that in the first paragraph, I will describe economic sectors that experienced an increase, and in the second paragraph, I will describe economic sectors that experienced a decrease or did not change. We need to look at our chart and identify which sectors increased and which decreased. I'll start with the agriculture sector. As we can see, it is a quite big segment on the first chart, 24%. And on the second chart, it's only 13%. Clearly, agriculture had a decrease. So I'll put a special decrease sign near it. And I'll do the same with all other economic sectors. Healthcare and education had no change. That's why I've put a dash near it. In the first paragraph with specific features, I will describe sectors with increasing trends, and those are construction, trade, utilities and transportation, manufacturing, and finance, business and other services. And here is my first paragraph. Construction sector accounted for 3% of Turkey's economy in 2000 and experienced a more than threefold increase to 1/10 in 2016. Economic income from trade, utilities and transportation was 14% in 2000 and had a slight growth of 2% in 2016. At the beginning of the period, manufacturing and finance, business and other services made up 8% and 5% of Turkey's economy respectively, and these figures rose to 12% and 8% in 2016. In fact, I simply listed all the sectors that increased and gave specific numbers. But look at how I use diverse vocabulary to describe the changes. To write a percentage of a certain sector, I use different expressions, like accounted for. Construction sector accounted for 3% of Turkey's economy. Was. Economic income from trade, utilities and transportation was 14%. Made up. Manufacturing and finance, business and other services made up 8% and 5% of Turkey's economy respectively. To describe a change in percentage, I also use a broad range of vocabulary. Had a slight growth of 2%. These figures rose to 12% and 8%. Experienced a more than threefold increase to 1/10. Here, experienced a more than threefold increase is a synonym of increased by more than 3 times or more than tripled. And 1/10 is a nice expression to say 10%. Now when we have written all the increasing trends, it's time to write our second paragraph with specific features. In this new paragraph, we have to list the decreasing trends, in our case, agriculture, government, and leisure and hospitality sectors, and sectors without change, in our case, healthcare and education. So, here is how I wrote it. Agriculture, which comprised almost a quarter of Turkey's economy in 2000, fell to 14% in 2016. In 2000, economic outputs from government and leisure and hospitality sectors were at 12 and 17% respectively, and both decreased by 3% after a 16-year period. In contrast, contribution from healthcare and education sector remained constant in both years at 17%. Again, I simply listed what happened to each economic sector of the second group. To indicate percentages of different economic sectors, I used diverse expressions, such as economic outputs from government and leisure and hospitality sectors were 12% and 17% respectively, and comprised almost a quarter of Turkey's economy. Instead of writing 24%, I wrote almost a quarter, which is a very effective paraphrase. And to describe the changes in percentages, I use several nice phrases, such as fell to 14% and decreased by 3%. To say that sector had no change in percentage, I use the following expression: remained constant. Contribution from healthcare and education sector remained constant in both years at 17%. Also, I use an expression in contrast, to contrast sectors that had a decrease and sector that had no change. Well done! That's all with our writing! This piece of writing will score a band 9 on IELTS test. I wish you to succeed in your IELTS preparation and see you soon in another IELTS writing tutorial.